Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Lakers Outsiders podcast. Uh, these are a lot more fun after the Lakers win. A lot more to talk about, and as you can see, a lot more people want to jump on and talk with us. Joining me tonight from left to right on my screen, Hani, Grant, and Dylan. You guys are familiar with all of us by now at this point. I'm not gonna give any special introductions. As I said, we have a lot to talk about tonight. We're recording this right after the Lakers beat the Bulls, fourth straight win, 8th in the last 10 games. Admittedly, I didn't get to watch the game tonight, so I'm going to be kind of tossing this over to you guys. I'll start with you, Hani. Talk to me about the game a little bit. I guess what was your big takeaway or takeaways from the game?
Super weird game because I feel like the Lakers played well for the most part. Especially offensively, they were clicking on all cylinders for most of the game, but they could never really pull away from the Bulls because Chicago just turned into absolute fire from downtown and couldn't miss any of their three-pointers. But I thought it was kind of a positive sign for the Lakers that they were able to kind of withstand all of that. Giving up so many three-point shots to a team that was knocking them down is obviously kind of a bad sign for their defense. But in general, I think it's a fairly good sign that they're able to make those mistakes and still play well enough that they can kind of overcome it.
Yeah, I was watching especially during the fourth quarter. I saw that the Bulls were probably like 15 from 30 from three, and the Lakers were like 5 of 23.
Yeah,
I could have read that wrong, but like I don't know the final stat of that, but like to have a 30-point differential in three-pointers, like, and the Lakers to still win, to be leading for most of the game, that was a great effort from the Lakers. I mean, they weren't able to run these shooters off the three-point line very well, but aside from that, they were protecting the paint pretty well. And when they weren't protecting the paint, they were giving up a bunch of offensive rebounds. That was a problem, and that's part of what kept the Bulls so close. I'd say their three-point shooting and their work on the glass really kept them in the game. But eventually, the Lakers were able to make enough plays to kind of separate themselves from the Bulls.
Yeah, I think that.
Sorry,
I was actually just going to give the final number. Yeah, so the Bulls were 17 of 36 for 47% from three, and the Lakers were 5 of 24 for 21% around. So yeah, about a 36-point difference there from three is huge. But one thing the Lakers did really well tonight is they only ended up with 9, which is really, really good for a team that's, I think they're second worst in the league in turning the ball over. So they're able to maximize their possessions and at least get shots, and they were really good in the paint though as well. So
another big takeaway. Just looking at kind of the box score, I was following along on Twitter for a little bit.
The Bulls took away David Nwaba from us.
Okay. Well, I was going to bring that up because it just makes me sad. But Brandon Ingram tonight, he's kind of become the go-to guy late in games. And tonight, I think he had 10 points in the final 6 minutes. How impressive was he kind of down the stretch tonight? I'll throw it to you first, Grant.
He was really impressive. I know that he started the game a little slow, but then he picked it up. And he had a couple deep twos, which you'd like him to see. Let me rephrase that. You'd like to see him stay behind the 3-point line because those are shots that he can make, obviously. But he knocked him down. His shot looked impressive tonight, and he was probably, I'm gonna use this word, he was probably the catalyst in the Lakers closing out this game.
Marcelo Huertas didn't die for this.
I know he didn't complain about the NBA for this either. No, he was really great, and you're seeing just how confident he looks in his dribble moves and his pull-ups, and you'd like him to find his teammates a little bit more out of these ISOs. But aside from that, he's been playing really well. I mean, he's kind of missed Lonzo when he's been out, but with Lonzo in, and some nights without Lonzo even, he's been great. You're seeing a completely different player from last year, and it's all in the confidence, and he's attacking a lot more. And he mentioned it himself that he's gotten back to that mentality that he had at Duke and he had before Duke, and it's really shown. He's made huge strides, like gazelle-like strides, in becoming a better player. And I'm just impressed watching him.
And I think
you say it was giraffe-like strides.
Hey, we're gonna get to the questions later, so don't sell the show before we get to it.
But yeah, Grant touched on this point, and I think the biggest part of it was that this is one of the few really good games that Ingram's played with Lonzo sitting out. Like pretty much every game, not every game, but most of the games that Lonzo hasn't played, Ingram has struggled because it's a whole lot of pressure on him to not only be a scorer as he is when Lonzo's playing, but also be the primary ball handler and most of the situations when he's on the court, be the playmaker for everybody. And yeah, he did struggle a little bit in the first half, but in the second half, he did a lot better job of one, just getting to the rim and finishing there, getting fouled, getting to his spots where he's kind of comfortable pulling up for jumpers, and eventually also doing a good job of kind of finding his teammates in their spots and getting a couple of assists and helping his teammates get better too. So I think that's a positive sign of growth that he's able to do that as the number one option, both as a scorer and a playmaker.
Yeah, we're seeing him do that, and that's with Tyler Ennis giving him the ball. It's with Alex Caruso giving him the ball, and it's with him trying to take over the playmaking responsibilities too. So there's a lot more on his plate with Lonzo out, and he has to do a lot more with less with Lonzo out. So that's good for him to have a good game with Lonzo sitting on the bench.
And again, I'm kind of going off box score numbers here, but it is kind of worth noting Ennis didn't play as much tonight. Caruso actually played more than him. Clarkson played 30 minutes. He led the team. So I guess Luke is finally hearing our cries to play Ennis less. It only took him, I don't even know how many games into the season we are, 50 games, 40 games too long, but I won't complain too much. But I do just kind of want to talk about this 10-game kind of streak. The Lakers have won 8 of 10. A lot of impressive wins in there. And really these last two, I think, might be the two of the maybe the most impressive in the stretch. Obviously beating the Celtics in another game that they probably didn't deserve, to whatever degree that matters. They didn't play well, I'll put it that way. And then again tonight to do it on the road, even if it is just the Bulls, to do it on the road, another impressive kind of gutted out type of win. Dylan, I guess what's kind of been your takeaway, or I guess why do you think the Lakers have been able to go on this streak largely without Lonzo in the lineup as well?
Well, I think it's been a couple of factors. I think that we've seen an emergence from players like Jordan Clarkson, who's been playing really well. Larry Nance Jr. has had a good stretch of games, except for tonight he wasn't very good. But and Julius Randle stepping up. But mainly they've been getting out in transition a lot more. That was kind of like a struggle to adjust without Lonzo in that role that they're used to having him in. But also they're hitting the glass really hard. They're getting offensive rebounds and putbacks, and they're playing a lot better defensively. They're getting back to that mentality that they had to start the season, the first 20 games or so. And I think that it's just kind of a combination of all those things that have really been able to keep them in games where they haven't been the more talented team. So,
and you mentioned a couple different things that I kind of wanted to touch on. I pulled up some of the advanced stats over this 10-game stretch, which obviously small sample size, but the Lakers are 4th in defensive rating at 100.2 in the league in that stretch. They're third in net rating. So that kind of speaks volumes of the offense, at least during that stretch, because that always had been a struggle. I mean, they're still 13th offensively, but that is an improvement for this unit over that time.
I'd agree. If you mind me interrupting you really quick. No, I think that obviously defense has been the Lakers' strong suit this season. And while there's been some lapses with it in the middle, but they've kind of gotten back to their ways from earlier in the season. The offense is kind of catching up to that, and they're playing how they want to play in transition. And yeah, they kind of get stuck in ISO ball a little bit, and they need to run plays a little more. But you're seeing them put up points now and play the same that they've been playing, and so that's a good sign. It's a sign of a good team. And Dylan kind of mentioned it with Jordan Clarkson. The Lakers are getting really good efforts from different players, almost night in and night out. You see Clarkson playing well over this stretch. Julius Randle playing well, Kyle Kuzma, lifting the team up in the fourth quarter. Even Alex Caruso. I mean, it's not the flashy box score stats, but he's giving the Lakers good minutes, good non-Tyler Ennis minutes, and that seems like an intended joke at Tyler Ennis. But having Tyler Ennis off the court and having a suitable replacement for him, it works wonders for the offense.
I was going to say, are there non-bad Tyler Ennis minutes? Are there
bad non-Tyler Ennis minutes? I was going to make a similar joke. Any non-Tyler Ennis minute is a good one. Yeah,
but his value over Tyler Ennis is probably high, and you just see a different product on the court. And so I'm impressed by the individual efforts that the Lakers are giving night in and night out, because when they're winning, it's always because of a team effort. But you can look to individuals like Jordan Clarkson and Kyle Kuzma and see, that really lifted the Lakers to the win. Like we saw kind of last year with Lou Williams, how he kind of carried the team to some wins earlier on in the year before he was traded.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to create that advanced stat now.
Value over Tyler Ennis?
Yeah, we're going to call it vote value over Tyler Ennis.
Oh, my gosh.
But to touch on it, I mean, mentioning Caruso, I think he's been a big, reason the Lakers have been able to play quicker. I think he helps him in that regard, and they're ninth in pace in this 10-game stretch, with considering Lonzo, I think, has only played 4 of the games in that stretch.
And they want to play faster, too.
Yeah, that's impressive. And then Dylan mentioned the rebounding. They are 7th in rebounding in that stretch, rebound percentage, I should say. So, I mean, really across the board, they've been playing really well. And I guess Hani to you, is the kind of eye test kind of meeting what these numbers are saying right during this stretch?
Yeah, for the most part. I think in those games where they struggled without Lonzo, the 2 straight losses where they mostly got blown out, a lot of those issues were the stuff that they've kind of fixed now. Like they had a huge problem rebounding, and they've kind of fixed that up. Their defense wasn't as good without Lonzo, and they've kind of shored that up. And I think, that's credit to Luke as well, adjusting to getting Caruso more minutes over Ennis. I think that helps defensively especially. It helps their pace go up a little bit. Though I do think the one thing that I do want to kind of commend Tyler Ennis on, since we're always so hard on him, I think he's done a pretty decent job of kind of pushing the pace when he's out there.
Yeah,
it's a fairly subtle thing, and it's never going to show up in a box score or anything. But these Lakers do need to play fast for them to be good offensively, and I think he does a decent job of doing that.
We always, not to interrupt, I just wanted to add really quick. We always see him when he's on the court. As soon as they inbound the ball or somebody gets a rebound, Tyler Ennis is always the one throwing it up the court and moving the ball. So that is actually something that he does really well. Yeah. And like you said, we are really hard on Tyler Ennis, and a lot of it's justified, but he does that really well.
But obviously Caruso just adds a lot of other things, like his defense. I think he's a very, very solid defender as a rookie. Offensively in the half court, I think he's a lot more willing to kind of take risks with passes, and he's usually pretty good at getting them there. But it's obviously super important for a team that doesn't have a lot of playmakers for him to be the kind of guy that gets open looks for guys every once in a while. So all of that kind of coming together, those last 4 games have kind of just changed what seemed like was going to be a terrible I can't say that word apparently. Yeah, that word. In the games that they had without Lonzo. In my defense, English is my second language.
Oh right. We see Caruso. He keeps his head up on both ends of the floor. He's always looking to make an extra pass, but he's keeping his head open. I mean, keeping his head up. English is not my second language. It's my he keeps his head up and he plays the passing lanes, and we see him intercept these passes like we did in the fourth quarter tonight. And like we see the Lakers at 9th in pace, and they want to play faster than that, but it's good to see them win games when they're even not playing the way they want to play, and be able to get out of those funks where teams slow the pace down, they play at a slower pace. Because we see the rest of the game, the Lakers are running up and down the court, but there are those lulls where they kind of fall asleep and let the other team dictate the pace. But being that they're 9th, I'd say that it's probably more of a Jekyll and Hyde thing during the game, because when they do want to play faster in the game, they're able to. But sometimes they just let the other team dictate the pace, and I think that's the reason why they're 9th. We just see a complete game from them. They're running up and down court all game, and we're going to see a higher ranking in that category.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, personally, I think for a team that is currently playing Ennis and Caruso the minutes they are, to be 9th in pace is, I mean, to me, it's kind of impressive. It's showing that they're still getting out and going, and they're doing it effectively. I guess there's a difference between just getting out and running and leading to turnovers versus getting out and running and winning 8 of 10 games.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And we've mentioned a couple players that.
I just want to add one thing more about Caruso, I guess. Now that you're speaking about the effectiveness that they have in transition, I think that he has a basketball IQ that's a little bit higher than probably our starting backcourt, especially in transition. He's less prone to make those like bonehead mistakes, it seems like, and I think that really helps them out, especially in the minutes that he's on the floor.
I think that he's been good in transition, and another player that is kind of has a little bit of work to do. He's kind of good in parts in transition is Josh Hart. I think that he still has a little bit of work to do, and I think he's learning from KCP a little too much, and like he's like getting some defensive tips, but he's also like paying a little bit too much attention to KCP on the fast break, and he's picking up the wrong things. But we see Josh Hart kind of like barrel his way through the lane, and sometimes it's just better to make an extra pass. Like on the fast break tonight, he had I don't know if it was Clarkson or Ingram, but they were on the fast break with him, and he kind of just went to the defender. Luckily, he got the blocking foul, but another ref could have called a charge. So I think that there's a little bit of work for him to do in transition. Now that we mentioned it,
he definitely when he catches the ball and he sees an open lane, he's not passing it. He's going right into there. And to his credit, it usually works out. He's a pretty good finisher.
He's really strong at the rim.
Yeah, he's a dog when he goes to the hoop.
He's the Hulk, isn't that the name they gave him? The nickname the team gave him because he's so strong.
Wait, we can't have two Hulks, can we?
Well, there's a green Hulk and a red Hulk.
Sure.
There we go.
There's a purple and yellow Hulk.
There we go. And since we're kind of on the topic of some of these individual players, I mean, again, over this 10-game stretch, obviously, basically everybody's playing well. There's only 2 players who have a negative net rating during that stretch, which both are fairly obvious. Tyler Ennis is a negative 14.9. By far the worst defensive rating. Second worst defensive rating, and the only other player negative is Corey Brewer. Aside from that, every other Laker is positive. A couple guys to talk about individually real quick. We mentioned Caruso a fair amount. Another guy, maybe a little surprisingly, played all 10 games, leads the team in net rating out of everybody aside from Lonzo that's played in that stretch. Larry Nance, offensively, looks like he's second on the team in that stretch behind Clarkson. I guess I'll throw it to you first, Hani. I mean, what have you seen from Larry Nance during the stretch? I know he's another player we've been kind of hard on this podcast. I guess what have you seen from him during these last 10 games?
I think he's done a much better job recently of kind of doing defensive things that lead to offense, and I think that's where you're seeing kind of the uptick in offensive rating with him on the court, because he's been really active in most of these games defensively. He's had a couple of blocks. He gets steals. He gets deflections, which is great because he has the size. He's got the length. He's got the athleticism that allows him to kind of gamble a little bit and do that. Obviously, you kind of worry about him doing it too much every once in a while. He's definitely the jumpiest big that we have on the team, and that gets him into foul trouble and all that. But when he does it in kind of a more disciplined manner, it means that the Lakers are kind of forcing turnovers or fast breaks off of blocks or whatever. And again, like we mentioned earlier, the pace being so high is kind of crucial to the Lakers having a decent defense, because they just don't have the weapons as playmakers or as shooters to kind of get into a half-court offense game with anybody.
The numbers back up kind of the defensive side of that. Lonzo leads the team defensive rating to whatever degree that matters. He's only played 4 of the games, but Larry Nance, out of anybody that's played 10 games, is first at defensive rating of 95 on the team. So he's definitely picked up his play, which has been important. I know tonight they had Nance and Julius. I don't know if they closed the game. They were in late. And those lineups have been a little more successful, I guess, during the stretch, because Nance is able to do some of those things defensively that kind of helps make up for maybe some of the deficiencies he has offensively.
Yeah.
Another player worth mentioning, I think we talked about him a little bit, another player who's been kind of lights out during this stretch is Jordan Clarkson. Dylan, what have you seen from Clarkson? It seems like really the offense is where he's shined during this stretch. I mean, do you is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, definitely, and I think that he's just been taking on the increased role that Luke's given him with Lonzo out. He's looking to get others involved a little bit more. You'll see with his like assist totals and stuff, and he's just been a lot more effective offensively. His shots falling. Tonight it wasn't, but over the last couple of games, he's been really, really good shooting the three. And I think they're just running more plays for him. It seems like they kind of know that he's like the guy that's on the roll, and he's kind of just riding that hot streak. And I think that it kind of benefits the team just because he's a guy that he can get his own shot. Without Lonzo on the floor, there's obviously a lack of playmaking, but he's somebody that you can give the ball to, and he can orchestrate and maybe get his own shot or find a shot for somebody else, and that's kind of what we're seeing. It's really kind of brought the offense around, like I think Grant said earlier, that the offense is finally catching up to the defense.
Again, the numbers kind of back that up. During this stretch, he leads the Lakers in usage, 27.1. Seems like they are putting the ball in his hands with Lonzo out and asking him to be more of the, I guess, creator, the guy to kind of initiate things offensively, basically take some of the role that Lonzo had. Obviously, he doesn't play the same way Lonzo does, but it's working. And he's been this, not even just his 10-game stretch, really pretty much the whole season. He's been incredible. Really kind of resurrected his trade value, which we'll touch on here in a minute. But I'll throw it to you, Grant. I mean, is there anybody else that has kind of stuck out to you during this stretch that's played well that we haven't really mentioned yet or anything?
I wouldn't just say it's like one guy. Like I've been saying, like we've seen stuff from Clarkson, probably him for the most part. I mean, I'd just be echoing what you guys have been saying. He's been playing really well this season. I think that, we saw a decline in his play when the whole team was playing bad. But there's kind of a correlation with him playing well and the team doing well, because like relying on his scoring and Kyle Kuzma scoring off the bench, that's lifting the team a lot. That's helping him out a lot. But yeah, it's a lot of different individual guys. Like I've been saying, it's Julius Randle, in 20 minutes, getting 14 rebounds and 14 points, and dropping like 25 points like he did the other night, or around 25 points. And you see Kyle Kuzma pour in buckets in the fourth quarter against the Celtics. And so we're seeing different guys kind of step up to the challenge each and every night. There were games where KCP played really well. And, we saw him make an impact defensively and shoot the three ball well. And even tonight, Brook Lopez played pretty well. He won the matchup against his brother. In 20 minutes, he had like 17 points.
Yeah.
And
only like 20 minutes, I think.
Yeah. So in 20 minutes, now he made a big impact. He was good when he got the ball on offense, and he protected the rim on defense. And I think that, when you have different guys contributing, more and more each night, that's a sign of a good team, that you can rely on some different players when not everybody can bring it every night. And so that's what good teams have. They have that depth. They have that reliability throughout the roster. And I think we're seeing a little bit of that in the Lakers right now. I'm not saying they're a good team by any stretch, because they're still, a bunch of games under 500. They're a really young team. They're going to take their bumps. But it's a really positive sign to see this growth and see these kind of qualities in them when they're this age, when Brandon Ingram's 20 years old, when Lonzo Ball's 20 years old, and all of these players are super young. So, to have these qualities right now, it bodes well for the future.
I think that just to want to touch on something about like the youth, I guess, like it's really hard to win in the NBA with like young players being your top contributors. And I think that to the start of this, like and during the start of the season, guys like KCP and Brook Lopez, like our veterans, weren't playing all that well. There was kind of like there's been a resurgence in that. Like Brook Lopez, even though he hasn't been playing like a ton of minutes, there's been stretches of the games where like offensively, and he's like been that guy that we can go to get a bucket, like we kind of all thought when we made the trade for him. And I think that just kind of and it's culminating into wins. Since like now the youth has kind of caught up and our veterans are playing well, even in their limited minutes.
Yeah, I think kind of talking about the Lakers these last couple of years has meant focusing so much on young players and caring about their development that we kind of forget about the veterans that they've had along the way. And to me, Brook Lopez has just been completely underrated. He's had his rough stretches, but overall, he's been such a big net positive for this team as the backbone of, their top 10 or top 15 defense, whatever they're at right now. And even offensively, as a guy that they can go to in the post if they need it, as a guy who can, one of the few guys who can kind of space the floor. And I think, especially during this recent stretch where he's kind of come alive, and I think that kind of started in that Grizzlies game where they were getting blown out early, and he was kind of yelling at the guys and making sure that they were kind of putting in more of an effort. I think since then he's done a good job of not only leading that way by telling them what they need to do, but also kind of leading by example and kind of showing how to get it done.
Yeah, I think that, like I said about Jordan Clarkson, we saw him open up the year pretty well, but the team just fell into such a lull and got into just a lot of bad habits during that losing streak. And then they kind of needed to wake up. They kind of needed that Memphis game to kind of slap them in the face. And because the Grizzlies aren't a good team by any measure. So, we see Brook Lopez kind of wake up and have that fire kind of ignited in him. And we're seeing him play a lot better. We're seeing him more active defensively. And, he's still kind of a black hole on offense, but, he's putting the ball in the basket at a higher rate. And, I don't know what the team's going to do with him after this year, but it's definitely good for him that he's playing better and he's kind of moving past that terrible stretch that kind of everybody really had.
Yeah.
And I think even how poorly he shot this year, if nothing else, his gravity still kind of spaces the floor. Teams are still they still have to come out and guard him at the three, or at the 3-point line. and that still matters, even if he's not hitting his threes. He's only shooting 31% from three, but it's enough that teams still have to respect it, and they can't just leave him open, which opens up lanes for. I mean, we always talk about Randall being a big beneficiary, Ingram as well, with how much he drives, Clarkson. We talked about Hart going to the rim, just in general, just everybody. With Lopez drawing away usually a center and more often than not a rim protector. That stuff matters, and again, it doesn't really show up in the box score. And we mentioned KCP. The other thing I wanted to mention, during this stretch, he is leading the team in true shooting percentage at 63.4. And I think last time we were on here, I mentioned that I liked how he played against the Grizzlies because he was a little more aggressive. I think he's continued to be that, and I think Hani's said this before, but I think it's a little underrated what he does defensively. I still think he's a pretty big piece to the defense, even if he's frustrating at times offensively. And again, his defensive rating 99.3 is fourth best on the team during the stretch, and he's usually taking for whatever it's worth for the teams we've played during the stretch, he's usually probably guarding the best kind of wing player out there. Speaking of KCP, we talked a little bit about Clarkson. I wanted to touch a little bit. Trade deadline's coming up. I believe a little under 2 weeks now before the trade deadline comes, a little earlier this year. But I guess the big kind of recent news early this week, the Lakers and Cavs have talked for whatever it's worth. Nothing else really came of it, so at least now. But it's worth noting that the Cavs have called and gotten in contact with the Lakers about a potential trade. I guess, Hani, I'll throw it to you first. Who do you think the Cavs would be targeting or potentially asking about from the Lakers?
It's really tough to find a trade between the Lakers and Cavs, just like the way the contracts work, because if I'm looking at the Cavs in win now mode, I think the two guys on the Lakers that can help them the most are probably KCP and maybe even Brook Lopez, because what they need are shooters and defensive players more than anything. But
someone to catch the ball on offense.
Yeah. But I don't really see a way for them to kind of make those trades without maybe a third team involved in some way or another. I know that they were reportedly really close to getting a deal done with the Kings for George Hill. And I think KCP, they're different offensive players, but like defensively, they can kind of provide the same sort of thing. They are on similar contracts. At least for this season. George Hill, I think, has another guaranteed year left on his deal. So, yeah, I think like KCP kind of fits into the mold of the kind of guys that they need. He'd be like an improved J.R. Smith for them.
Right. I was going to say, like, maybe the offense would kind of be a little redundant. Yeah. But overall, it'd be more of a positive than JR is right now for the team.
Yeah.
Saying that after he's made like 8 threes today.
Yeah.
I was going to say, JR is back, baby. I don't know what you're talking
about. This is the Cavs fan of our podcast, Dylan Heiser.
Ohio native, Cleveland Cavalier.
I wouldn't mind if it was possible. I don't know what the contracts are like, so I'm just talking out of nowhere. But if we got a JR for KCP trade, we would have 2 shooting guards who are very good at sliding in DMs.
We should have retained Swaggy P, damn it.
Our true shooting percentage on DM slides would be out of this world.
It'd be over 100.
It would be.
If just hypothetically, if we were to trade for J.R. Smith, in the last 2 years, we would have had Jordan Clarkson, J.R. Smith, Lou Williams, and Nick Young on our team at shooting guard. That would be like
buckets.
The top 4.
Listen, we have a type, and we're sticking to it, okay?
We got buckets on and off the court.
Grant, I'll throw it to you because Hani didn't give the name that I thought he was. What do you think? Does Jordan Clarkson make sense for the Cavaliers? I know his name's been thrown around a little bit. Does he make any sense to you to as like another? I mean, you could even pair him with George Hill, but does he make sense to you to go to the Cavs?
Well, the thing is that they've been so terrible on defense lately, and I don't think that Jordan Clarkson adds a whole ton in that category. Like what you're looking to add with Jordan Clarkson, if you're trading for him, is scoring off the bench and a little bit of playmaking. And I think that it's kind of redundant, especially if I think Isaiah Thomas would be a better fit for the Cavs off the bench, and he'd provide, he'd kind of be like a super Jordan Clarkson in that sense, because like it'd probably be like his positives and negatives just kind of maximize. Like his scoring, yeah, it'd be a little better, and the defense would be a lot worse. And so I think that it'd be a little redundant if that's the role that you have to kind of rely on Isaiah Thomas to have and run with maybe Dwayne Wade starting. So I don't know. I think that they'd have it'd be a weird fit for the Cavs. I think that also, like, if you have Derrick Rose on your team, that's what he's going to try to do too, and you're not getting plus defense out of Derrick Rose as well unless you're shipping him out. And I do not want the Lakers to trade for Derrick Rose. And so maybe I'm kind of thinking with clouded judgment, but at the same time, you look at it, from a basketball standpoint, and Jordan Clarkson doesn't really fit in.
To me, Isaiah Thomas is playing so bad that to me Clarkson's a better version on both ends, right now's version of Isaiah Thomas. So I guess it depends on how much of a leash they're going to give Isaiah Thomas, I guess, how long they're going to roll with him in the backcourt. But he's a name that he's come up a little bit. It was interesting in on the Low Post podcast with Brian Windhorse. He kept reiterating that Zach Lowe, he was given fake trades, but he kept reiterating that he needs to view Isaiah Thomas as an expiring contract more than anything, because he kept saying that that's how the Cavaliers are looking at him. And I guess that's a long way of me saying, is that someone that you think the Lakers would have interest in a potential trade with the Cavaliers?
Which team says no to Jordan Clarkson for Isaiah Thomas trade straight up?
Probably the Cavs, because you're selling pretty low on Isaiah Thomas. But I think some package that maybe included KCP and Clarkson for maybe Isaiah and something else could be interesting.
That would be really hard to make money match, I think.
Because Isaiah is on a super small. Isaiah makes like $6 million a year.
Yeah.
I think that we mentioned how Jordan Clarkson's probably playing a little better right now just because of the kind of defense thing and health-wise. But, considering with, obviously, I don't think this is well-sourced because Stephen A. said it, but if Dan Gilbert's looking to sell and, everybody thinks LeBron's leaving, do you kind of add a young player like Jordan Clarkson whose contract won't look terrible under a new CBA with the cap expanding? And so them kind of – I don't see him kind of throwing in the towel quite yet this season. I don't think there's a lot of – especially on LA radio, there's a lot of talk of why aren't the Cavs exploring LeBron trades and trying to convince him to waive his no trade clause. And you shouldn't trade LeBron James, but like I feel like we're about to see, the end of the Cavs run, and that LeBron's out the door. Basically, he has, as Ramona Shelburne put it, he's always operating with one foot out of the door. And when you have such a shitty owner Gilbert, it's like, at any time there could just be an implosion. Like they wasted all that time, after they didn't re-up with David Griffin chasing after Chauncey Billups, that they missed out on Paul George and they missed out on Eric Bledsoe. And so like, it's just been a whirlwind of an offseason. Yeah. And I get that it'd be selling low on Isaiah Thomas, but like you look at the quality of play and the trajectory that his career is going on, especially after the hip injury and his size and the way he likes to play basketball, I don't know if the Cavs would benefit from that kind of trade.
With regards to the Cavs, I think that it's been kind of reported that like they're gonna at least explore like multiple trades. They're not just gonna make like the George Hill deal. So like, say if they did like go out and get George Hill, I think that they would be more inclined to get rid of Isaiah Thomas in like a Jordan Clarkson swap. I mean, just because you'd have two guards there coming back at least, and so I mean maybe that's something they would do. And but I mean it's kind of they have to do something to like they're trying everything right now basically.
That's a lot of money coming in on two guards.
Well, I mean yeah, that's true, but George Hill only has 1 year fully guaranteed after next year or after this year, and then Clarkson makes what, like $12 million a year or so. I mean, yeah, I get it from that standpoint. But if they're going to try to persuade LeBron to stay, I mean, they're going to have to make multiple deals. So I mean, it could be on the table.
I just don't think that the Cavs are going to be doing any panic moves. Like I'm sure I'm 99% sure they'll make a trade, but I don't think trading Isaiah is on the table for them because he's only been back for like a month. And the ceiling that you get with him, despite him being 4'6", is that
as tall as Dylan.
Is that he's an all-world scorer at his peak. So if he ever gets back to that by the time the playoffs roll around, I think they're fine. I don't think the Cavs, considering the fact that they have LeBron James on their team, care at all about having home court in the Eastern Conference playoffs. They're pretty much.
I think they showed it last year that they don't care.
Yeah. And at this point, they're probably not going to get it from the Warriors. So there's no point at all going for it. So I think they're fine kind of rolling with Isaiah, trying to get him healthy, trying to get him meshed with the rest of the team. And they kind of I feel like LeBron teams especially kind of do this every year where they go into a lull because, I mean, they play with the best player in the world and they kind of expect him to kind of carry them.
They found you, honey.
Yeah. Dan Gilbert's coming to get me. But yeah, I just don't see them making such a move that they would sell so low on Isaiah, who's again an expiring deal, so that if LeBron does leave the team this summer, they don't have to pay him.
I think you can't make a panic move with LeBron James on your roster.
Yeah,
I don't think that you can ever put yourself in a position to make a panic move because you have literally the best basketball player in the world on your team.
But I think
the only way they go for it.
Oh, I feel like I wouldn't necessarily think that would be a huge panic move. I feel like the panic move would be trading the Nets pick.
Yeah,
like if that's something that they ended up doing, they would obviously get a high return, but like
it depends what they trade it for too.
Because
if you trade it in a DeAndre deal, you kind of look at it a little better, don't you think? Because the Nets are playing better, and it's going to be like a higher pick than they initially thought, right?
Yeah, and DeAndre's a free agent, so like if LeBron leaves, you don't have any money tied up in DeAndre. I mean, but it's I don't know. It'll be interesting. They're obviously a team to watch in the Lakers.
Ramona Shelburne was on ESPN Los Angeles over the last couple of days, and this was something that she was talking about a lot. That just like you don't know what to do with the Nets pick, and this is totally not a Cleveland Cavaliers podcast, but like, do you wait and see if the Nets are on a downward trajectory, or do you make a move right now in hopes to have better chances in making it to and winning the finals? So I don't know, but I think that we should move away from all this Cavs talk and get to some Laker related stuff. I think we had some questions, right, Jacob?
Well, there's one other name I wanted to mention from the Cavs. And this is related to the Lakers. It's another guy. Isaiah has been a bit of a scapegoat there. I think the other guy that was a bit of a scapegoat is Kevin Love. He's a guy that's been linked to the Lakers a lot. Is he a name that you would A, want to trade for, and B, try to trade for? I'll throw it to you, Hani.
He's obviously really good at the basketball. So yeah, like in a vacuum, sure, I would love to have Kevin Love on my team. It's just that it's kind of difficult gauging where the Lakers are in their future plans because we don't know what's going to happen with them trying to get superstars this summer. If there's legitimate beef between LeBron and Kevin Love, why would you trade for Kevin Love and then try to sign LeBron in the summer? But yeah, I mean, like he's a pretty good fit. He would really hurt their defense, but he would be, offensively, he would fit in really nicely with, say, Julius Randle or something. But yeah, I don't see it as a realistic trade target for the Lakers right now.
Yeah, you'd have to move Julius to center full time, and that's gonna take a toll on him, and defenses are just gonna go at him. And as strong and tough as Julius is, that wears on a player.
Yeah, and I don't really know that Kevin Love is even available, honestly. I mean, I think that he's like him and LeBron are the only two constants for the Cavs. Even like with the locker room stuff that like Kevin Love is supposedly started, but like he's been like easily the second best player all year, and he's like kind of the only guy outside of LeBron they can consistently rely on to play well.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're talking, I mean, obviously that was pure speculation, but if we're talking a post-LeBron Cavs team, I doubt they want to trade Love, who would be kind of he'd probably be the best player. But moving on, we didn't have a lot of questions tonight. Austin, former staff member Austin Green. Should the Lakers wear these Black Mamba jerseys every night so they have enough Mamba mentality? Hani, should they wear them every night?
I don't know the answer, but I think Austin should have more Mamba mentality in terms of writing for the site. But yeah, I'll pass.
I see another question we have. Grant, are the Lakers going to be a playoff team?
LOL.
Yeah, I was going to say. I wasn't going to include that as at the end of it, but yeah, I don't even honestly know what the
I mean, if
is.
you look
Obviously,
at the pace if you look at the pace that they're playing at, and they're winning 8 out of the last 10 games, right?
Yeah.
If they win 80% of their games,
I mean, the trajectory it's going up, and I can't do the math right now. That's Hani's thing, but they'd have to be a playoff team if they keep winning like they do.
All right, you keep talking. I'll try to figure it out.
Right. So I'll fill it while Hani tries to do this. But no, honestly, I don't expect them to make the playoffs. I don't think anybody with a sane mind expects them to make the playoffs. But the way that they're playing is encouraging, and especially in a year that we don't have a pick, it's encouraging to see them play a better brand of basketball, especially with the way they played just a few weeks ago when they were losing a bunch of games. So when they get back to the pace that they want to play at, and they're playing defense and they're scoring points like any basketball team wants to do, play defense and score points, you're going to win some games. And so we're seeing them win a lot more games than they're losing because they're able to play the style of basketball that they want to play. And even without the player that's probably means the most to them offensively, they're not going to make the playoffs this year, but depending on who they bring in over the summer or who they resign, who they let go, then we'll see what they can do next year.
And okay, go ahead, Hani. Let's see. Are we going to be a playoff team?
If the Lakers win 80% of the rest of their games, they're going to be about a 46-win team.
That's playoffs.
That's close-ish.
8 seed. We're coming for the 8 seed.
Let's go.
We're only 6 games back right now.
Realistically, though, I think that so right now we're in the 11th spot. It looks like. I think that Utah is a game and a half out, or like a game and a half above us. I think that if we can like finish in the 10th spot ahead of Utah, I think that would be a really, really, really improvement from last year. Yeah. But being like 10th in the conference, I think that would make a world of difference in terms of like free agents and stuff like that. If they can continue, like obviously they're not going to win 80% of their games for the rest of the year.
Maybe let's not assume that they're going to do that.
Listen,
Right.
we didn't get our annual win at Staples against the Warriors, which means that we have to play them more times this year, which means we're going to be the 8th seed and beat them in the playoffs.
Oh my god.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Listen,
I guess
if you thought if you thought Lakers exceptionalism was bad now, imagine a win over the Warriors in the playoffs.
I think
I'm not even
an automatic series win if we pull up.
If the Lakers are like 500 for a year, I'm gonna be the worst person on Twitter. So, like, even more so than I am now.
The Lakers are gonna win.
Wait, you have a Twitter account, Dylan?
The Lakers are gonna win a playoff series against the Warriors, and everybody's gonna blame LA nightlife.
So, I mean, to realistically talk about the record here, it is worth noting the Lakers are 19-29 now. They would have to go 7-27 over the remainder of the schedule to just match last year's record.
We've seen it before, so
yeah. Hey man, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying we're on pace to be better than last year, and that's I mean, obviously that's an improvement, and that's a big improvement when we're going to be trying to attract free agents.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see if the Lakers get a marquee free agent. I don't know if it's Paul George or even, let's just say LeBron, just for the sake of saying it. I cannot wait for the takes on Twitter. Why would LeBron go to a 30-win team, or why would Paul George join a 35-win team over the Thunder with Russell Westbrook? Oh my gosh! And I have a particular person in mind that you guys all know that I'm talking about. It is going to be marvelous if it happens.
Listen, I'm going to be insufferable. I will lose hundreds of followers.
Yeah. It's gonna be bad.
The last thing that we'll talk about, which is this has kind of been developing while we've been on the pod. I'm sure everybody listening live has been following it. Boogie tore his Achilles tonight. Pour one out for Boogie, who was playing so well. He was going to make the playoffs, it looked like, for the first time.
Hear me out.
Tears his
Boogie down.
No. Tears his Achilles. I believe it was his left Achilles tonight. Out for the year. I mean, it's relevant to the Lakers because, I mean, there's a recent report that the Lakers were expected to be targeting him. He was one of the max guys that a lot of people were potentially envisioning in the Lakers this summer, at least somebody they'd chase. I'll throw it to you first, Dylan. I mean, knowing I believe he'll be 30 this offseason.
No, he's going to be 28.
Okay, 28. I mean, even then, 28 coming off a torn Achilles, would you give him a 4-year max contract still?
Yeah, I think that for a couple reasons. I think that he is worth it. And I mean, you're obviously either way, you're going to be betting on his health coming back anyway. So you might as well give him the max because he's a max player, healthy. And just because you somebody else is going to offer him a max if you don't. But yeah, I mean, I would.
Grant, would you?
This offseason? No. Just off the strength that maybe you could spend the money a little differently. You could, let's just say Paul George comes and you re-up with Randall and a different free agent. I think that it's a net positive. And plus, if Boogie's missing a year already and you're expected to compete, what?
Wait, is the question like, are we going to offer him
this offseason?
Max? Like, I'm saying,
question is, would you offer him the max contract this summer?
I do not have the money for a max contract.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, personally,
no, but I don't think it'd be smart for the Lakers because, one, given Kobe tearing his Achilles, I get heebie-jeebies thinking about it. But you can't give up another year with a player, and I think that you can spend your money differently. You can sign Paul George, and you can, like I said, re-sign Randall, and bank on Ingram's development, Ball's development, and trying to progress that way. I don't think that adding Boogie, especially after tearing his Achilles, he's going to be missing most of the year. So do you think that's really the right way to spend your money? In this offseason that's supposed to be really pivotal for the team in their future. I don't know if that's a smart move.
Let me rephrase my answer, I guess. Then I guess if they were 100% going to offer him a contract, I think that they should offer him a max deal. But I do agree with what Grant said. If they're probably he wasn't their first choice. That report said, and I think that he's fallen probably farther down on that list given the injuries. So he wouldn't be the first person that I would even offer a max deal to. But if they were going to, then I think that you give them the max.
None of this matters too because they're going to sign LeBron and Paul George.
I've been saying this, man.
And re-sign Julius Randle.
Re-sign Julius Randle.
And Brook Lopez to the mid level. Let's go.
Champion.
Lakers exceptionalism is alive and well. I'll give you the chance to answer the same question. Is he still worth the max to you this summer?
I think he's worth the max, but I don't think as the newly appointed GM of the Lakers would offer it. Boogie, I love Boogie. I think he's a great player. And I try to defend him against all the jerks that say he's not. But he wasn't high up on my list of free agents before this anyway, because of kind of the way he fits on this team and what the direction of the team is. Now with the Achilles, not only is he missing a year, as Grant said, but you just don't know how he's going to recover from that. It's
exactly
very rare that we see a player or an athlete injure their Achilles and come back and be just as good. We obviously saw it with Kobe, but there's been a bunch of guys like Wes Matthews. He's made his money and he's having a decent career afterwards, but he's not the same player that he was before, for example. So I'd be really worried about that. And like Grant said, there's enough other players that you can throw your money at. It might mean that you can re-sign Julius and keep him around, considering the development that he's shown and how important he is to the team, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I don't think that I would offer him the max.
Yeah, I mean, just to add my brief 2 cents, I don't think the Lakers will, and I don't think they should. I think there's enough question marks about him already. Just kind of the off the court stuff, whether you believe it or not. And even, I guess, kind of his demeanor just in general, I guess. Basically, there's a lot of questions about whether he'd fit with the Lakers even before the injury. If you're paying him a 4-year max, you're basically probably only going to get 3 years out of him, and that's assuming he probably has an opt-out at the end. But regardless, you're not going to get a full 4 years. But if we've learned anything from the Lakers, players coming off an Achilles injury will get the max basically anyway. So they gave it to Kobe before they even saw him.
I said this when we had a little Lakers Twitter meetup. Kobe was playing like Kobe in Memphis before he broke his knee. I will cape for that Kobe.
That half game sample size.
I was just about to say, Jacob,
he was balling out in that Memphis game. He was hitting those Kobe shots. He was getting in the post. He was hitting those fadeaways, and then he goes down with that broken knee. And that's what really set it off. I swear.
Yeah, I don't know if we shouldn't compare Kobe and DeMarcus Cousins' value to the Lakers.
What?
Jacob
did not realize
that'd be like comparing Honey's hair to Dylan's mullet.
Yes, yikes. Exactly.
Did not realize the can of worms I was opening. that'll do it for the podcast tonight. That is all I had written down to discuss. Again, thank you all of you guys for coming on and talking about a Lakers win. Those are, like I said at the beginning, those are a lot more fun to talk about than last time we had a podcast where I think it was right after the Grizzlies game. It was right after a loss, regardless. So yeah, it was a lot more fun to talk about the team after a win. They will be, depending on when you're listening to this, they will play on Sunday afternoon on the West Coast, at Toronto. They're at Orlando, at Brooklyn, and at OKC. So I think there are games there that they can win. I'd be very, very surprised if they won all of them. But nonetheless, I think reason to be excited about the team right now. So we will try to certainly have another podcast next week.
We're getting better about them.
Hopefully after another Laker win. But yeah, for all the guys, this is Jacob signing off. Have a great one.
Shout out to Seb.